What's up? What's up? What's up? You are listening to her in the huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. This is your girl, Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports. And, today was the day. Cleveland Cavaliers' first practice. Terry Francona giving his last press conference as manager for the Cleveland Guardians. But, as you know, during the season, we're going to open up with some Cleveland Browns. And one of the things is I'm here with Sapphire today. Sorry about that. Usually I announce whoever I'm with. And I'm here with Miss Sapphire today. And one of the things that Sapphire mentioned yesterday, but we didn't get into, was the throwing under the bus of Deshaun Watson. So, there's a little bit of fallout going on with that, a little bit of damage control. So, Sapphire, why don't you tell us a little bit about what happened since you mentioned it yesterday?
I mean, for me, as I reflected on the presser, when Coach got up and said that the shoulder was structurally sound, that tells me the coach's position may have been that Deshaun was good to go. And the issue that I have is not with that in particular. However, when you already know your franchise player said he could not go, it creates a degree of conflagration. And now there is a distraction because that I knew Deshaun didn't do a post-game presser.
No.
Right. So I'm just going to speak for myself and say I'm in my feelings about this because this is completely, again, on Coach Kevin.
Okay.
Wash your laundry in-house, right? To put that out there, understanding how much pressure Deshaun is already under just adds more fire, right? More fuel to the fire. Let me say it like that. So for me, there should be some damage control going on because we as a fan base have also invested in Deshaun, in this team. And I just didn't like that. They need to clean that up, Rachel. Those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, like I said, a little bit of damage control is being done now because supposedly Kevin Stefanski didn't mean it like that. So, you mean what you say, especially somebody like him who is very crafted in what he says. He doesn't give up much. So, when you speak, we are listening to what you say because you rarely say anything. So by saying what you said, I feel like he did throw Deshaun off under the bus because, Deshaun couldn't go, so it brings you some flashbacks to what happened with Baker Mayfield, and Baker ended up having surgery. So Baker probably shouldn't have played, even though Baker said that he could play and it was a contract year for him. So I'm sure he wanted to go out there and play as much as possible, but it ended up being worse in the long run. The shoulder got re-aggravated, I believe, against the Cardinals. So it ended up, derailing our season or what have you. So, but according to the doctors and stuff like that, Baker was cleared to play. And Baker probably knew he should have played, so part of that I blame him, on insisting he played. But like I say, he was in a contract year. So, he wanted to get as much money as possible. And it hurt him because he ended up getting cut from this team. So it didn't even matter that, he stuck his neck out, put his health on the line. With Deshaun Watson, this is your franchise quarterback. And, you guys said that he couldn't throw the ball more than 10 yards, but he was medically cleared to play, but you didn't like what he was doing. So, what is it, and I'm glad Deshaun didn't play. Exactly. It's like a seesaw, who's sitting down harder and, where's that seesaw going? So I'm glad he didn't play to not aggravate, because they said it's a rotator cuff injury and we all know that that can be painful, and, you use your arm for everything you do. So I'm glad that he didn't play in order to, further risk more injury and completely derail our season. And they said that he hadn't taken, snaps with the first team all season. So, there was a possibility that he couldn't play. I'm sorry, he didn't take snaps, first team snaps the prior week. He only did handoffs. So you kind of had an inclination that he wasn't going to play in the beginning of the week. And that's when you should have been getting DTR ready, and working with him and making sure that it was going to be a smooth transition during the game. So when we went yesterday and we talked about who do we blame for the loss, Kevin Stefanski is a leader of this team, and this is the person that I blame for the loss.
Yeah, for me, I hear rotator cuff and I cringe because, even the smallest tear is generally a 2 to 4 week rehab time,
Mm-hmm.
right? So do we know what the extent of this alleged rotator cuff tear is?
It hasn't been released yet.
Mm-hmm. So for me, again, and I don't want to get everybody ginned up like I am because, I have to go back into therapy with DTR this week over that last game.
I was going to ask you, are you feeling a little bit better today?
No, I am not. It just is sitting on me. Not that we lost, but that, there's all of this strife. Again, there's all of this strife. Our players don't need to be distracted. Our coach doesn't need to be distracted. And for me, most importantly, the fans don't need to be distracted. How injured is Deshaun? And what is the organization going to do to address it? What are they going to do? Because the answer, certainly, with all due respect, is not DTR.
Yeah, he was in over his head and he wasn't ready. So even though if you tried to prepare him a week in advance, he wasn't ready. When you go against the second and third teamers, things are not moving as fast.
Right.
So when you go against, those first teamers, the real professionals who, are doing this day and out, the game didn't slow down for him apparently. And, the defense probably prepared for Deshaun Watson being injured. So, they know to come after him, and not say injure him further, but they know that there's a weakness there. And, pretty much they didn't really have any tape on this rookie, so I don't know if Kevin Stefanski was trying to play a different hand or what have you, by not showing his hand. But it's just a messed up situation at the end of the day.
It is. We really don't know where we're going. And, our wonderful PD, who that I understand is also a coach, said the offense is what it is, and it's not going to change. So what does that mean from a fan perspective in terms of where we're setting our expectations, right?
Set them for a lot of frustration. So you're going to be walking out of more houses the rest of the season dealing with Kevin Stefanski.
But at least I got my steps in.
I was about to say. Y'all, Sapphire walked down the street. I thought she had left for the viewing party.
Sapphire, I was like,
I thought she had got in her car and left. I'm like, is she still here? She was down the street. You missed the ice cream man and everything.
I heard you guys saying ice cream. I wasn't feeling it. Like, I've been watching Browns football for decades, and it's like I feel like sometimes we as fans are in an infinite loop. Right?
Yeah.
And that's what's so frustrating about it. And so to me, this is a moment for Coach Kevin Stefanski. These next 6 weeks will be a defining moment for him. My expectation, based on last year, is that this team will not only reach the playoffs, but at least get one game in. That's my expectation. There's no other outcome that could satisfy me as a fan. So that's where I'm setting my expectation. And then I could care less about this right now. There are, for me, your talent is one thing, but your coaches are the ones that lead the pack, right? Your talent, your players, your employees have to keep pace with the visionary, right? And that's, to me, what Coach K is. He's the visionary. Smart guy, knows offensive play calling, knows schemes. What are you going to do, Coach K, with the talent that you currently have? That's what I'm looking to see.
Yeah, my issue is with his play calling and his inability to make adjustments, in-game adjustments. So, you were out there seeing what was being done to DTR, and you didn't make any adjustments coming out of the locker room. You didn't try to make him any comfortable or any better coming out of halftime, putting him in position. Still, once again, you saw he was not successful in the first half, but you still didn't take it up a notch and make sure you would make things successful for him in the second half. So I guess also I'd have to blame Alex Van Pelt out on that, because Alex Van Pelt is kind of telling him what he's seeing and stuff like that. We could all see that DTR was struggling, and Baltimore was coming after him. I believe that, they pressured him out of the 32 times. I believe that it was 28 times that he was pressured. Mm-hmm. So, the offensive line obviously is having those issues as well. So that's a big problem. But like the overall thing is, you could have had him do some screens and stuff like that. You moved away from the running game and stuff. And this is all on Kevin Stefanski. So I anticipate, like you asked, a lot of frustration out of him because, from 2020, it's just got worse. It hasn't got progressive. And usually when a team reaches the playoffs, you can expect some little measure of success for them to have and kind of keep it going. But if anything, this team has regressed. And you wouldn't think that we had made the playoffs in 2020. This guy wouldn't be the coach of the year. And, so far, all he has done is regressed as a coach as well.
Yeah. And the curious thing to me about what you said is, like, we don't know what the dynamic between Coach K and AVP is. Mm-hmm. We don't know that AVP didn't take it to him and say, this is not working. It's time to do something. We just don't know. So, understanding that Coach K calls the plays, do we understand who really is the one behind the scenes that is inputting to that, right? Saying, no, Coach K, this isn't working. We tried this. We got to do that. We just don't know. And it's nothing that's talked about. I mean, that truly is inside the locker room stuff. But for me, I would love to see AVP step up and call some of these games just to see what the difference in offensive, philosophy is, their style is, because we know what we have gotten from Kevin Stefanski. And I don't think it's going to change. I don't think he wants to even think about, making adjustments. I think he wants to dictate his will mm-hmm. and shove his play calling down our players' throats and also our competition. So I don't know. It's very frustrating, but that's what I would like to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you said, we don't know what those conversations are going on, but hopefully, they are taking place. But, is there anybody bold enough to tell the leader and the head coach of the team this isn't working out? And if they tell him it's not working out, obviously he's not listening because he didn't do anything when it came down to the play calling. Yep. We could all see it wasn't working out, and we don't have to be on the field. We as viewers are watching what's going on, and we see there, this guy's in trouble. This guy isn't doing, what he's expected to be doing, especially after seeing him, in preseason. So we were singing his praises, but it didn't translate over to a starting quarterback. And I don't necessarily blame him. I don't feel that he was prepared.
No, there's no way. What I saw, there's no way he was prepared. So,
by the coaching staff, by
the coaching staff. It's real. I mean, last year he was playing college ball. Mm-hmm. Let's be real about this. So to that end, I would love to know, like, if you were in the GM seat, what would you be thinking about doing right now to address that QB position?
It starts with an F and ends with a D. And somebody going to be in the football unemployment line. But they kind of came as a package deal. So we got Brandy that has joined us. Brandy, what's going on? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. I don't know if you heard anything about what we said or whatever, but, what are your overall thoughts about the game that took place on Sunday?
Yeah, I think, I heard a little bit you guys talking about it at quarterback. Obviously, Deshaun not playing. I think everybody knew they were going to struggle a little bit, especially against Baltimore. So, I don't know, kind of watching it kind of makes me think maybe we should have kept Joshua Dobbs to be the backup and not let him go to Arizona. But I think the defense played pretty well, but obviously you could tell that they got tired as the game went on just because they were on the field so long because the offense couldn't do much production to stay on the field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are your thoughts about Kevin Stefanski throwing Deshaun Watson under the bus? Did you get to hear about that?
I did hear about that. Yeah, kind of unexpected. I wouldn't have assumed that he was cleared to play, and I don't know why you would mention that now after the game, but I guess, we have to trust Deshaun that he felt he wasn't ready to play.
Maybe he was trying to pass the buck because maybe he know his job is on the line. Maybe there's something going on that we don't know. So you have a built-in excuse for losing the game because it was just atrocious and it's a loss that didn't have to happen. And yesterday I forgot our poll about who would you blame for the loss. Let me try to get back into that. Hold on one second, because
So Brandy, let me ask you something. Like, if you were in Deshaun's shoes and you heard your coach make that statement after the game, how would that make you feel as the franchise player?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that's tough just because he also worded it saying that he trusts Deshaun, that he wasn't ready to go. But I think in his position, it's kind of hard because now, fans are looking at him like if he was cleared, then why wasn't he playing? So I think it obviously does put him in a position of does he trust his coach now? Because, why would you let that out? And you could have said it before the game, honestly. So why wait till after? Like Rachel said, it kind of seems he might be using that to blame the loss on.
There you go. There you have it right there. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I've been hearing all day. People are upset. You have split camps, making comparisons between Deshaun and Baker. And Baker played with one arm. And why would a player get to dictate whether or not he's going to play or not? Thank you, Kevin Stefanski, for what is going to be almost 2 weeks of this kind of fodder. Thank you.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and take our first break. You've been listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. We'll be right back.
Yeah, it's just my customers today. I was like, I can't get any business done. Let's just have our therapy session. What the hell was that?
Yeah, I don't know what that was, man.
I think you're onto something, though. I think it speaks to Kevin Stefanski starting to feel the real fire.
The noose tightening around his neck.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point you made, Rachel. I really do.
Because you think that he would have learned from the Baker situation how to handle this better. Because everything he does and says is very calculated. It reminds me of LeBron. LeBron doesn't do anything without it being a purpose.
Right.
It's very calculated. Everything he does, everything he says, he thinks about the after effects regarding it. So Kevin Stefanski is doing kind of the same thing. Right. And I think he know that his job is on the line if he don't get some more wins.
I'm not even thinking it's going to be towards the end of the year. I really think he has to show something in these next handful of games. Like, especially if we dip below truly 500 and you know what I'm talking about, get behind the eight ball and you start saying, okay, well, you start looking at the schedule. Oh, we can win this game. We can that. Long the team's not executing. They're not performing to the level of expectation. That is what I call the sleeper hold. Just comes up on you real quick and you wake up and you're like, damn, we're out. I don't think the Browns, if they're smart, will let it go to that extent. And I truly believe it's a high probability event we're going to see Schwartz with the headphones on.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm hoping for, girl.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Welcome back to Her in the Huddle with Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports.
All right, welcome back to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. I am here with Brandy and Miss Sapphire, and we are discussing the Cleveland Browns and what's going to happen next with Kevin Stefanski. I feel that the noose is tightening around his neck, and he's throwing other people around under the bus so he can continue to keep his job. So right now the Browns are 2-2 in the AFC North and 1-2 in
division.
Thank you. I was looking for that word. So far in the AFC North, it appears that Baltimore is going to be a team to beat. They're sitting at 3-1. I don't know who their next opponent is, though. I know it's so early in the season, but right now we're trending downwards. Do you think that we can recover? Can this team get his mind right and continue to focus? I know it's very early in the season, but I kind of am not liking what I'm seeing, because this also has to be a morale thing as well with this team and how this defense is played, and the offense kind of let them down. And, I'm looking at the Browns depth chart, and Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones as your only receiver. Marquise Goodwin hasn't really did anything. Cedric Tillman, Jakeem Grant is hurt. And our receiving core right now is kind of not, Deshaun doesn't have anywhere to pass the ball to. What are your guys' thoughts about, what is going on with this team, whether or not they can rebound from, losses such as these, and also the wide receiver room? I'll take you first, Sapphire.
I mean, for me, it's like you have at least average, slightly above average receivers, right? So for me, the role of the coach is to call plays that are going to help get that football into these men's hands. So for me, I think, why do we have DPJ back on special teams, right? We've seen it. We've been there. We've seen it. That's what it is, right? What would be the harm, right, in trialing more back there, right? Like to get him into some kind of rhythm, or even Goodwin. What the heck? Some guys with good hands, good speed, back on special teams, to see what that looks like. It's just, everything is stagnant, and it hurts my heart when you look at Cooper. And this last game, what did he have? 6 targets, 1 reception, 16 yards, and that was the long. Like I just can't. It's like I'm dreaming. I'm in a dream, and I'm waiting to wake up to watch the Browns play at home versus the Ravens. Where is the creativity on offense? Just like any place in life, you try something, it's not working. You know what? You're going to be agile. You're going to try something different. There are enough tools on our offense to do that. And I just don't understand, we're 4 games in, and here we are stuck. We're looking pretty much at the same thing, same playbook, right? Those are my thoughts on this, in terms of what just some minor changes could do. Shake it up, right? And see what that looks like.
Yeah, Elijah Moore really hasn't gotten too many targets, and I don't know if he's really caught the targets that he's got. You got David Bell that you're not using. Yep. Brandy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Like you just said, I think probably, try to get the ball more to Elijah Moore. That's what they brought him here for. They drafted David Bell. I think he is great at catching. I think they should try and get the ball more to him. And I agree with, punt return. They definitely struggled at that last year too. So I agree. Why not try David Bell or other receivers back there who could get the job done? But I do think that, obviously this next game they're playing San Fran, so it's going to be tough. So hopefully Deshaun is ready to go. But I think they'll get it together. I think obviously losing Nick Chubb was a huge part. He was a huge part of the offense. So I think that also is affecting those guys, adjusting to playing without him. Defenses, when they are playing us, pretty much they're always worried about Nick Chubb and not having him out there. That takes a big part of it. But I think they'll get it together.
Yeah.
Randy, I want to just ask you a question. So I remember watching the game. One of the analysts, was trying to palliate Browns Nation, and he said, this offensive line was built more for, protecting and creating opportunities for Nick Chubb, almost as if that was an excuse that the Browns couldn't get their run game going. I don't know if you heard that, but just based on what I shared, what are your views about that? Was that a palpable reason why the O-line didn't really seem like it was up to the task on Sunday? We had no run game. What do you think?
Yeah, I know it is tough. I was hoping bringing Kareem back, would have helped out, but I think we'll see him step up too in the next couple of games. But yeah, they talked a lot about how the offensive line worked in the offseason to build unison together and be able to, stay good together on that front line. So I'm not sure. I don't think not having Nick Chubb affects that, because I think it should be the same for them, whether Kareem's back there, Jerome Ford is back there. So I think they just didn't play as well in their game, but I think, that should come together. We've seen them be one of the best offensive lines the past couple of years.
I forgot what I was going to say, Sam.
That's really fascinating because, I hear what you're saying, Freddie, and I agree. When I heard the analyst say that, I thought, I've only been watching football for decades. To me, this is about which side of the line is going to be more physical than the other. So why should it matter who is in that backfield? What, can we dictate our will on any of our competitors? That was another thing. It's probably right before I got up and walked out, Rachel, to be honest with you. I'm like, come on now. At the end of the day, it's about execution. This was an AFC North rival team. We already know that should bring an extra level of intensity, right? So I appreciate you sharing that. I just was really curious because it was kind of like, don't say that. Don't even put that out there. Kind of like to a certain extent, even though the defense was exhausted, still, even Myles Garrett called it out. At the end of the day, you have to execute, right? You got to be physical. You have to win those one-on-one battles. So that just didn't sit right with me, Rach.
Mm-hmm.
I think they also need to address Jedrick Wills.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Oh.
Absolutely, because he's just awful. So what do you guys think as far as what needs to be done, coming out of this bye week?
I'm not allowed to curse on the program.
No,
I'll
you're
just
not.
say that Coach K really needs to have some one-on-one time with Deshaun. They just no press, no not. They need to sit in a room and they really need to have moments together because in this moment, I do not know how Deshaun Watson is not thinking he's not Stefanski's guy.
Mm-hmm.
That just really bothered me. That's the number one thing I would think it would need to happen over the bye.
Brandy.
Yeah, first things first, obviously Deshaun, hopefully he is better and ready to go. I think they're definitely going to have to get creative and, not just do the simple play calling that we've seen. San Fran has been one of the best defenses in the past few years, so they're definitely going to be a hard team to play. So there's really not going to be much room for us to make mistakes on offense against the San Fran defense because they will quickly get a turnover.
Mm-hmm. And if they get blown out by San Fran with Deshaun, there's definitely a lot of people are going to be calling for, Kevin Stefanski's head at this point because, with the roster and the deficits that you have at wide receiver, which is huge, but you have Amari Cooper, who is the person who can make those critical catches for you. There's really not going to be any excuse, but I think that they, need to have a definitive plan for the running game because teams are planning differently for Jerome Ford than they would for Nick Chubb. So that, teams don't recognize Jerome Ford as being Nick Chubb. So how can you also put Jerome Ford in positions to be successful? Stop doing reverses because those are not working. So I don't know why he calls those. They're getting ate up at the line of scrimmage. And I think, they have to have some plans for these wide receivers and also special teams as well. Now they have the, 4 games to see what is working for this team and what is not working for it. And it actually needs to be addressed. So, that is my hope, that you are because at the end of the day, as a football coach, you're supposed to put your players in a position to be successful and win games. And Kevin Stefanski isn't doing that. This is a roster fully capable. Jerome Ford can, break a big run. You have to have that protection, better protection when it comes to passing and running the ball, better protection, and I understand that this line was set up to, run the ball, but you also got to pass the ball as well. That's football. And, it looks like they're looking for a balanced attack. So these are some of the things I feel like they need to do coming out of this bye week.
And I hope I see them spread that offense as much as it can be spread. Give San Francisco something to think about. Drop, Deshaun back in the maybe shotgun. Really just give the defense a lot to process. Like make them cover the entire field. Give Deshaun some time to make the play happen. That's rudimentary, right? So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, Brandy.
Yeah, I agree. I think, obviously we're going to have to get these receivers more involved. I think that's the biggest thing. I think we talked a lot last season too, like what the problems were, but they weren't getting addressed. So I think that's the biggest problem, just with the coaching staff. And I think they have to really figure out the players' like special talent and use that to their advantage. Look at the defense. We saw them playing decent last year, and then Jim Schwartz came in, and then everything came together. So I think they just have to figure out what's each player's positive thing to them and use that to their advantage.
I'm looking forward to Jim Schwartz being head coach of the Cleveland Browns fairly quickly. And I believe he won't call his own plays. He will trust Alex Van Pelt to do that because he's a defensive guy. So I'm looking forward to the possibility of that happening this season. And I think this team won't miss a beat with that transition.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too, to be honest with you. I mean, we've been watching the same movie for a few years now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. If we want to win, we need to try something new. To your point, I think Jim Schwartz will bring that kind of energy and direction and give the team a real identity, right? I think he would do all of that. So I'm right there with you on that, Rachel.
Yeah, because it's a new release every year. Part 1 was really good, but part 2, part 3, part 4 have all been the same and they all suck. So, these sequels are the worst and you got to change it up. So I think you need to shake things up in a bold way. So we're going to go ahead and take our second break. You're listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU at 95.9 FM, and we'll be right back.
Yeah, they got to spread that offense out. They have to spread that offense out.
With another year on this great earth,
spread it out.
They gotta do something. Because they ain't have him under shotgun the whole game, I don't think. He took every snap under center.
Just about, yeah. So, to me, space it. Like, I've never played football, I only watched it, but it was like the Baltimore Ravens did any on defense. They did anything they wanted to do to us, but they just knew.
They just teed off once they found out the rookie was started, and that's what good football teams do. They tee off.
Oh, Rachel.
All right, welcome back to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. What you can always do is make sure you're listening on your regular radio dial at 95.9 FM. You can always listen online at WOVU.org. You can also download that WOVU app so you can listen to us on the go. And you can always contact the station with any questions, comments, or concerns at 216-271-0959. One of the things that we have to address, ladies, is a possible injury to Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett was seen leaving in a walking booth. Him and DTR was at the podium on Sunday speaking, but Myles said he'll be okay to play. Brandy, what are your thoughts about that? Or do you have any concerns since he left in that walking boot?
I think obviously it is a little concerning to see him in a walking boot, but he did say that he thinks he'll be ready to go. So, luckily we do have the bye week. So hopefully with this week off, that he'll be ready to go.
Sapphire.
I mean, we don't know the specifics of the injury, right? Number one. Number two, that I'm aware, sometimes these boots are used in more of like a palliative care situation where you just want to alleviate, right, the pressure in that part of whether it's the foot, the ankle, or whatever. It could be more palliative, but I believe Myles Garrett will be ready to play in a couple of weeks versus the 49ers. Absolutely, hands down.
I'm hoping so because we're going to need him to go after Brock Purdy and shake things up. Right now, Brock Purdy is unstoppable. Nick Bosa is going to be teeing off. So that offensive line, they better figure out something real quick because they're going to have to stop him. So blocking is going to be essential, especially for Jedrick Wills. But I'm pretty sure that he's not going to be able to do his job. And I can't believe that the Cleveland Browns actually extended his contract, so I blame Andrew Berry for that. So that situation is not looking good. So, they're going to have to block, like, if their life depended on it, because the way this team is playing, I'm not 100% sure if they're going to be able to beat San Francisco. San Francisco is rolling right now. They play Dallas tonight, right?
Mhm.
So hopefully, during, this bye week that the Brown scouts are, definitely checking out what they're doing. I'm going to be watching tonight. It'll be an interesting matchup. But, I don't really have any faith in this coaching staff per se.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't Nick Bosa a little banged up this year already?
Nah, he ain't really playing like it. Everybody hurt at this time of the year. We only a couple, games in. And remember, Kareem Hunt was hurt after game one. So, yeah, it's a lot different sitting on your couch, not going through training camp or anything like that. So,
I mean, I don't know. To me, the other Bosa is the bigger terror, but not to disrespect Nick.
Yeah.
He's not really at the top of my mind. What I get worried about the most is Brock Purdy and what he could potentially do, again, if our offense is leading our defense, on that field for extended periods of time. That's what I get concerned about more than anything.
Yeah, because you don't want it to be a replay on Sunday at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I can slowly, I can slowly see that taking place, and that's what scares me. But if Deshaun is going to be back, it's going to be better, because you can't put that kid in again. He needs to be, taking those second team reps and stuff like that. You can't put him in with any success, I don't think, because he's just not ready.
Let me ask both of you. So, what's the probability that the Browns are looking at picking up a vet? And what does that look like to you? Who could that be?
Brandy, you can go first.
That's kind of tough. I don't know. Honestly, at this point, I wish we would have kept Joshua Dobbs, but I don't know vet-wise. I know the Jets, when obviously Aaron Rodgers went down, they were looking at a few vets, but, they didn't end up getting any. They're going to stick with Wilson, but I don't really know if I guess there are a couple of vets out there that the Browns could possibly get, but I don't know if I see them going out to get any of them.
Okay, so a couple of free agent quarterbacks. Andy Dalton is out of there. No. Blaine Gabbert, Tyrod Taylor, Jacoby Brissett. No, he has a team. What is this? I don't know what this list is. Brian Hoyer, Case Keenum. It says that these are free agents, but it don't sound like it. Cam Newton. I don't want him. I don't really know. That's a great question, Sapphire.
Matt Ryan, I know, was one of the options. I'm trying to think who else the Jets were looking
What
at.
about Nick Foles?
I'd be okay with Nick Foles.
And we're talking interim. We're not talking about the rest of the season.
And people was talking about Carson Wentz. I don't know about that. Nick Foles or Carson Wentz. Brandy, what do you think about those two names?
I'd probably take Nick Foles over Carson Wentz.
See, for me, again, this is just about having a quarterback that will get the ball into the hands of the playmaker. I don't care how cute or ugly it is. When I think about what Nick Foles did in Philly, right? To me, he seemed like he was better able to process what the offense is, what they need to do, knew where his playmakers were, right? And he could throw the ball like above average. This is like a patch. Again, we're not talking about someone coming in here and creating a quarterback controversy. I'm just asking if Deshaun, his injury is more significant than what we are currently aware of. What options do the Browns exercise to get us through whatever amount of time, he will be out? That's just the question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because sadly, DTR ain't it. And it's not his fault.
No.
it's not his fault. So, I'm okay with bringing a veteran in, somebody who understands, because, he can't be thrown into the fire with a team that has very high expectations and aspirations. And he's a fifth round pick. It's not like he's a second round pick or anything like that. He was drafted in this fifth round. So I know there's a Tom Brady, but everybody ain't Tom Brady. And he's kind of showing that he ain't. With some work and practice, he can be, but that's a little bit later down the line, and we wasn't expecting him to be called into action so soon. So moving on to Cleveland Guardians. So today, Terry Francona gave his last press conference. I thought that after the game was his last press conference, but today was actually his last press conference as a manager of the Cleveland Guardians. Brandy, you weren't with us yesterday, but one of the things we talked about is, what has Terry Francona meant to the city or what have you, or team as a manager of the Guardians. What is that for you?
Yeah, I think, the city of Cleveland has loved Tito. I think, a lot of them are sad to go, but I think at the same time, some people think it's time. So, I am curious to see, who's going to be able to take over and be manager and who's going to be in that spot next season. But yeah, Tito's meant a lot to the team. He got us to the World Series and things like that. He's done great things here, but I am curious to see, what it's going to look like moving forward.
Well, Gabe Kepler was released today with his fine self. So I wouldn't mind, having some eye candy to look at,
Lord.
when it comes to, managing Be Still My Beating Heart when it comes to him. But what does the future hold for the Guardians at head coach, you think? Brandy, I'll take you first and then Sapphire.
Yeah, I'm not right now. I don't really have an idea of who I would think I would want to come in and take over. But I mean, they're a very young team, so I think if they get the right manager, that we could see, them back in playoffs and how we saw them a couple seasons ago. So, I'm looking forward to it. They have a young team, a lot of talent, so I think it should work.
Do you think they should go older or younger with their manager, or in between?
I would say probably in between or older. I think just because it is such a young team, I think they do need someone that has been, managing in the MLB for a long period of time. I think that will definitely help out the younger players.
Sapphire, same questions to
I
you.
would totally agree with Brandy. And in terms of leadership, to me, it has to be somebody that's proven. They're proven that the younger players will respect, look to, kind of like a Deion Sanders kind of effect,
Coach
right?
Prime.
Yeah, I mean, and like I just touched on yesterday, I think Tito was a great fans coach, right? What I'm looking for in the next iteration is someone that garners the respect of the players and calls them to action, makes them accountable. I don't want to see my coach be friends with the players. I want that tension. I want that always got to keep on my P's and Q's, right? Because I'm going to be held to account, which is, again, why I kind of like Hargrove. He was kind of a hard derriere in that extent. I mean, so again, I agree with Brandy, someone kind of like, maybe middle to older, but someone that's definitely going to push our players and hold them accountable.
I kind of feel like they might go on the younger side. One of the things is Chris Antonetti, when he spoke today, he said that they're considering, internal and external candidates. So I don't know if they're going to go in-house. DeMarlo Hale is the bench coach and, has been the coach when Terry Francona has been out. And then you've had Sandy Alomar Jr. So I'm looking at those two could be possible replacements for the in-house. But, I don't really know what they're going to do. So they said that they want to get somebody in this position as soon as possible. So, they can get ready and prepare. But one of the things I didn't know was that Terry Francona was going to stay on with the Guardians.
Yeah.
I thought that he was going to be completely gone and ride off into the sunset. So one of the things I did ask him today was, did he foresee himself being on television, when it's all said and done? Because when he had his press conference here 11 years ago, he said that he had the opportunity to do broadcasting. And he said, I don't really know what the future holds for me. I don't really know right now. So, but yeah, he's gonna, be in a role that they create, specifically for him, still with the organization. So I thought he was riding off into the sunset, but he's not. So hopefully, he has a role in, helping select the next guy. It sounds like he will, but I think that they need to search far and wide for who, will be the next manager of the Cleveland Guardians. And like I said, I'm hoping, that they select Gabe Kepler. Because that would be good for my eyes.
You heard it first, ladies and gentlemen. Her in the huddle.
Yeah, what they say, God's lips, or God, what is that expression? God's lips to my eyes, or something like that. But I wanted to read off some of his accomplishments. He has the most managerial wins in club history, 921 to 757 for 2013 to 2023. He's the best. He's the number 4 on best major league records from 2013 to 2023 at a winning percentage of 549. Most seasons qualifying for postseason. During his tenure was 6 times. LA Dodgers was 11. Most managerial wins, 921. Also, most managerial wins in MLB history. He's at 13. Obviously, he's a world champion with the Boston Red Sox in 2004, 2005. He's been an American League Manager of the Year 2013, 2016, 2022. Most consecutive winning seasons. He is 3 in Major League Baseball with 16. And also, he has 11 seasons, the club record, 921 wins, club record, winning seasons 9, club record, AL Manager of the Year awards, 3 AL Central Division titles, 4 total games out of postseason contention, 25. So those are some of the highlights that we have over Tito's career. And we're going to go ahead and take our third break. You are listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU and 95.9 FM. And we might not be taking the break. So let's go ahead and get to what improvements do we think need to be made in the off season for the Guardians?
For me, first of all, don't you think he looks a little bit like Jason Kepler?
Who?
Your guy here, Kepler.
Gabe Kepler?
Just
Nah, he fine.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
He stands alone.
There you go. I mean, for me, it always comes down to pitching. Every year when I think about the Guardians, it's pitching, right?
Uh-huh.
And to me, that's what, like with football, defense wins. To me, pitching wins baseball games. So what does that look like? And it always seems to be like an open-ended question.
Because Shane Bieber might not be here for long, Tristan McKenzie. And, I don't know why they brought them back at the end of this year. I think that they should have just shut them down for the rest of the season, and not had they come back, because Tristan McKenzie got rocked really bad. And then, Shane Bieber, had 2 wins, 2 wins, fortunately, but I think that they had to come from behind in those wins. So I prefer them shut them down, but they got to get some bats, your outfield, a player in the MLB, has way more, I forgot which player it is, has more home runs than your total outfield combined. So, your team doesn't really hit for power except for Jose Ramirez. So, they got to do something to hit for power. Brandy, what are your thoughts? What do you think they need to do in the offseason to improve?
Yeah, I 100% agree with pitching. I think that's the biggest thing that I think too. And I think also, we spoke about it last season, trying to get more hitters in the bottom of that lineup. I think those are probably their most 2 important things.
Yes, it's sad we got to sound like a broken record,
I know.
These things, because a lot of people get paid a lot of money to address these things, and they're not. So that's what I take issue with. I know these things, and I don't make the amount of money that they are making. So why is it so hard for them to be able to do that? But one issue is they're confined with financial constraints as well. The Dolans got to go. Somebody has to buy this team. They have to give them an offer that they can't refuse, and they can turn this into a profitable team because they're hamstrung by the financial purse strings of the Dolans. So I don't foresee it getting any better.
I hear that and I agree with you totally. And then I think, but you're still getting a check, right? What is the work that you're putting in? I look at a Tristan McKenzie, seems like a nice kid, but 6'5", 165, like we play on the North Coast. If a good gust of wind comes through, he's gone. Right, Randy? Come on.
Right.
And I love me some Josh Naylor, but they need to put him on profile. When was the last time he made it through an entire season? Like, this is what I'm talking about. What is going on in the training room, the coaching? Look, kumbaya, but you get a check, right? We as fans are paying premium prices to come and see you and support you because we love the team. That, to me, also goes back to coaching. So, I don't know. It is a broken record.
Because Josh Naylor gonna be going to at the end of his contract because they're not gonna pay him anything. So World Series pick really quickly before we go to break. Brandy, who your World Series champion pick? Even the playoffs just start.
Oh geez. Let's see. I'll say Tampa Bay.
Okay.
Listen, I'm going to put my age out there. I don't even care because I'm just comfortable in my skin. I'm a huge Dusty Baker fan. I always have been. I'm sorry.
The Houston Astro cheats.
Listen. Houston Astros. That's where I'm living.
All right. I'm going with Atlanta Braves, but I want the Baltimore Orioles to win.
Okay.
So. Okay. They were like the worst team almost in Major League Baseball last year. So, from worst to first. So I'm rolling with them. So that's my team that I'm rolling with. So we're going to go ahead and take this final break. You're listening to Her and the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. We'll be right back.
On Saturday,
I'm loving this flow today.
You are?
I am, because it's like a hybrid. I don't want to go too heavy on stats all the time, but bring it more from like a fan perspective, like because you got all that on lock. I'm just saying.
The music of Joan Tower, Maurice Ravel, Dmitry Shostakovich will be heard.
There's going to be some chats. I definitely believe that.
Welcome back to Her in the Huddle with Rachel Hill.
All right, welcome back to Her in the Huddle, WOVU 95.9 FM. So yesterday was media day for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So they play on the 10th. So, preseason is rolling up really quickly. I think they have a game in France too. So basketball season is here and this team is ready to go. I got a chance to go out to practice today. We talked about JB, and one of the questions I always wanted to ask JB, last season I did ask him, what did he learn about himself as a head coach? And he said, I'd be more prepared to answer that, after the summertime. So I didn't get a chance to ask that of him at media day yesterday, but I'm very curious about what he did learn to help propel him, to the next level of the playoffs, because he got out coached. Is it Tom Thibodeau that's the coach of the Knicks?
I'm thinking it is. Let me do a fact check for us while you go on.
Yeah. So, I want to, because he had his team ready to play. He had the New York Knicks ready to go. And he didn't have, he didn't have the Cleveland Cavaliers ready to go. Like Jared said, who's played in Brooklyn, which is right by New York City, he think the lights were too bright. So I'm still kind of off put by that comment, speaking from somebody who's a veteran and, been in the playoffs and, played in New York City pretty much for the most part, why that was so difficult for them. But, my question for y'all is, what do you think that this team is going to be about and, their new identity? Because they added some shooters, which we were struggling with last year, because really pretty much Darius Garland and, Donovan Mitchell were your shooters. So, what do you think that this team, needed to do to improve for the season? And Sapphire, I'll take you first.
I think the first step was bringing TT back up in here. Okay, we're already even that more physical, right?
Mhm.
Tristan has proven to respond to a player like the Spider, right? When he played with Ron, he's been to the dance. He knows what that feels like. He knows how to play within himself and play that position. I already like that move just in of itself because we're already more physical. With all due respect to Jared Allen, okay? I felt like we were not physical enough on that low post. He may have a different type of game. That's fine. But with Tristan Thompson back here, it's on like a pot of net bones. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. I'm excited.
And I'm wondering if they brought Tristan Thompson in for his rebounding ability.
Absolutely.
You don't expect him to obviously be a starter, but to show them a little bit of toughness and physicality, I felt like that's why he was brought in. Because, he getting, to the tail end of his career and stuff like that. So I think that that's one of the reasons why he was brought in. And Brandy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think, whether how many minutes he's getting or not, I think he'll also, he'll be able to help on the court, but off the court as a leader too when he's not in the game. He has been there. He's won a championship. Pretty much last year, all the Cavs, pretty much the whole team, it was their first time ever in playoffs. So I think him as a leader is definitely going to help them. And, like she said as well, I think the toughness is definitely something the Cavs needed. We saw in their series against the Knicks, they just kept getting pushed around, especially in the paint. So I think Tristan will definitely help out with that and just bringing toughness to the team. And Darius even said in his interview how he watched the series over and over and over again and again, and that, one of the things that he noticed is that they definitely need more toughness this season.
Yeah, and I really think too, Randy, like, listen, there's going to be more offensive opportunities for Tristan because of the likes of Garland and Spider, right? The defense is going to have to come out and address those players, right? So separate from the defensive rebounding we're going to get from Tristan, I just think there's an open book. If he could bring double doubles every night, look, we're good. We're good, barring injury.
George, I missed his comments, but he said, "Who do you think should be our current baseball team?" I'm not sure if he means manager. World Series picks. His World Series picks are the Dodgers versus the Orioles, surprise AL pennant winner. One thing before we end the show, we got 3 minutes left. Wanted it really quickly. Should Ohio State be worried about 5-0 Maryland? They played a very close game last year. Should we be worried at all? Sapphire, you are nodding. Want to hear your thoughts.
I mean, look at their quarterback, right? And look at his pipeline to the NFL. You don't think he's not been working on his reads off season, getting that input from his brother, and the way Ryan Day has got this offense? I'm a little worried about him, to be honest with you. However, I'm going to stick with what I said last week about our new quarterback. Those are my thoughts.
Brandy, what are you thinking? Hello, Brandy. Oh, she's frozen up. I definitely think Mickey Delaney says, "Hi, beautiful Brandy. Hi, beautiful Rachel. Sapphire is beautiful too." I'm a little nervous, because they kind of last year that score was a little too close for my liking. So, like you said, Tua, not Tua, but his brother. I forgot his brother's first name. What's his brother's first name?
I just called him Concussion Man because I still can't believe he's still playing, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, but he could pose a problem for this offense, who is still trying to, right itself and learn and stuff like that. So this isn't the prolific offense that we have been used to. Marshawn Powers would probably say Ohio State should be worried about Maryland. I have some concerns, but we'll see. That's why you play the game. So we'll see what happens with them. And Sapphire, I want to thank you, Brandy. Want to thank you for being here. You've been listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. We are out of here.